Good morning, everybody. First off, thank you so much for coming out. The key to this whole thing, okay, with focus groups, and by the way, again, my name is Brendan Lupetin. I'm from Pittsburgh. My firm's Myers, Evans, Lupetin, and Unitin. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool plaintiff's lawyer. I love to try cases, and because I love trying cases is how I got into focus groups. I tried a whole lot of cases at my prior firm, and they were tough cases, and I really kind of felt a lot of times like I was feeling around in the dark, and I'd go and I'd hunt down the jurors afterwards, and a lot of times they kept telling me these things, and I was like, holy moly, like I can't believe they thought about that. I can't believe that was even an important issue. I either hadn't thought about it or just completely ignored it, and then sort of found my way into focus groups. David Ball's got this book. It's not even in publication anymore, but for sort of like a handheld guide on how to do these yourself. I highly recommend tracking it down on Amazon or eBay, David Ball's How to Do Your Own Focus Groups book, because that kind of got me started on this. And then just doing a lot and basically getting a ton out of everyone I've ever done, but kind of failing forward, which is sort of my motto in life with focus groups. Not really know what I'm doing, but each time getting a little more out of it, figuring out next time I'm going to do this, next time I'm going to do that, and then seeing the applications of them at trial, like really changed things for me a lot. Plus, they're super fun to do. You'll see, and sort of the whole point of this presentation is, I hope you'll see how easy they are to do. Okay, so they're fun, they're easy, and they're cost effective. That's my goal, is I want everybody after this to please, I hope, try to do them yourself if you're not already doing them yourself. So with that said, I don't think there's any better way to kick off a presentation than, and hopefully the volume works, a little bit of The Simpsons.
Of course, that's kind of.
We want you to tell us what you think, and be honest, because no one from the show is here spying on you.
Why is that mirror sneezing?
Look, it's just an old creaky mirror. You know, sometimes it sounds a little like it's sneezing or coughing or talking softly. Now, you each have a knob in front of you. When you like what you see, turn the knob to the right. When you don't like what you see, turn it left.
My knob tastes funny.
Please refrain from testing the knob.
They like Itchy, they like Scratchy. One kid seems to love the Speedo Man. What more do they want?
Okay, how many of you kids would like Itchy and Scratchy to deal with real-life problems like the ones you face every day? And who would like to see them do just the opposite, getting into far-out situations involving robots and magic powers? So, you want a realistic, down-to-earth show that's completely off the wall and swarming with magic robots.
And also, you should win things by watching.
You kids don't know what you want. That's why you're still kids, because you're stupid. Just tell me what's wrong with the freaking show.
Excuse me, sir. The thing is, there's not really anything wrong with the Itchy and Scratchy show. It's as good as ever. But after so many years, the characters just can't have the same impact they once had.
That's it. That's it, little girl. You saved Itchy and Scratchy.
Please sign these papers indicating that you did not save Itchy and Scratch.
So, you know, I put that up there because obviously it's hilarious. But as the course of this CLE goes on, I'll try to remember to point out there's so much stuff that's so dead on with focus groups within that. You know, the difficult to deal with focus group participant that shows up, the trying to just confirm your own beliefs, the, you know, digging and digging and digging until you get that Lisa moment at the end that finally comes out and can be a real game changer for your case. Shockingly, the Simpsons have a lot of focus group knowledge right there in that clip. So keeping with this theme of that, I want everybody to feel like they want to run out and go do their own focus groups right after this and know how easy it is to do. I want to dispel some myths, and I don't know the level. Actually, I should do this. Has anybody here ever done their own in-house focus groups? Larry's got one. Okay, great. So we got one pro, and then a bunch of us, who was me just a few years ago, and we're going to all run out and go do our focus groups right after this, okay? So when I think back and when I talk to people a lot about doing focus groups and people ask me questions about them, I get the sense that there are certain kind of preconceived notions about what they are that maybe hold people back from doing them themselves, okay? And so I want to talk about a few of them, and this is, nothing I talk about today is an exhaustive list, and neither is this. So first and foremost, they are not a silver bullet. Just because you do a focus group, it's not going to just, oh, I'm going to win every case now, and it's just going to give me the magic, words to say or angle to go forward, and I'm just going to win all my cases, because obviously if that was the case, we'd all be just going out and doing that and making, gazillions of dollars. They're not, they're not the end in and of themselves. They're just another tool that all of us should use to try to do our best for our clients and do the best case that we can. They help you identify things you didn't see and all sorts of stuff, but they're not just this magic fix. And a lot of times, if I have an okay outcome on a verdict or something like that, some people say, oh, it was all because of the focus groups, right? And it's like, well, no. I mean, there's all this other stuff that all of us do as lawyers that went into why that case was. It was a small piece of it, and sure, I did some focus groups, but that wasn't necessarily the reason why, we won the case. It's not a crystal ball, okay? And what I mean by that is you may do, on your own case, 2, 3, 4 cases, and maybe you've gotten to the point where you're doing a solid job, even-handedly presenting the information to a group of people, maybe 20 people in total, maybe 4 groups of 5 you've done it to. And pretty consistently, they're coming back and saying, they're giving you the impression that whatever, your theory on liability or causation, that it's a winner or a loser. Unfortunately, it does not always bear out at trial. And the reason for that, or part of the reason for that, is that focus groups are, they're qualitative research, they're not quantitative. So you're not doing this thing in this perfectly sort of, overseen scientific, with lots of numbers, with lots of people that gives the outcome statistical significance, okay? And so just because maybe 20 people kind of felt like, yeah, you were on point there, does not mean that a random group of jurors, and I don't know what jury selection's up here in Erie, I haven't tried a case up here in a long time, but in Allegheny County, we basically have no voir dire. And so we kind of just get a bunch of random people. I don't know what they're up to. So they could be a completely different set of people with different beliefs and different ideas than the people that I have brought into my focus groups. And so, you always have to be, whether it's just take it with a grain of salt or something like that, the outcome of your focus groups helps guide you. It helps, identify things that can help or hurt your case. But it's not, okay, because those group of people felt this, that is how this jury will find. Sometimes it does. More often than not, you get that consistency. But again, it's just, it's not going to tell you exactly what the jury in your case is going to do. This goes back to the point, again, this is sort of the theme of the whole case. Focus groups are not too confusing. They're not too difficult to do. They're really quite simple, okay? At the end of the day, what you're basically going to see is all you're doing is just bringing a group of people in, okay? Just sort of a random group of people that are talkative, that'll give you feedback, and you're just giving them ideas of your case and saying, what do you think? Tell me more about that, okay? And the reason why it's so effective, as we'll go on in this case, is that whether it's 2 heads are better than 1, I think if 20 heads are better than 1, They give you insights. They help you see things that you otherwise may not have seen, and they're just very valuable. But again, they're not complicated. At the end of the day, it's getting a group of people in and running ideas by your case. And pretty much if you do it that way and you don't go in with an agenda to try to win it, you're always going to get something of benefit back from your focus group. The other point that I want to say in here is that they are not too expensive. Okay, I personally believe that when you consider how much deposition transcripts cost, deposition videos cost, experts cost, just the filings, everything, all the different costs that go into our case, and then you think about what I'll tell you how much the focus groups that I do cost, I don't think there's any greater value adder to your case than doing your own focus groups for the amount of money that you're going to spend. And I also mean multiple focus groups, 4 or 5 on cases you would say, that's a maybe $100,000 case, maybe that's a $200,000 case. Those cases are worth it to do this for the amount of money that it costs to do it, and your time and your preparation doing it, which is going to be another benefit about them that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. So dispel, if any of you thought that stuff, thought, oh, I couldn't do a focus group, or they're too expensive for the cases I handle, or all these different issues, those are issues that I want you to at least kind of, think a little bit more on. So on the other hand, and this is what this is all about, focus groups are good for a lot of things, okay? And again, this is not at all an exhaustive list. Oh, and before I go on, I really, if anybody has questions, anything jumps out, at any point, please raise your hand and ask, and let's have a conversation about it, okay? I would encourage that. I'd ask that you do that. I want people to learn. And so I'm going to do my best to cover the basics of focus groups today. But if you have questions as it goes on, what about this, what about that, I tried this, or I was thinking that, just jump in, okay? Because I'd like it to be as informative and cover as much of the basis for all of you as we can today. So what are focus groups good for? Maybe first and foremost, and again, this also kind of dovetails with dispelling with some of the myths of how you use focus groups. So I think a lot of people think, oh, focus group, that's when I'm about to go to trial. Okay, and I've got some issues, or I want to just give a set of facts and see how they react, and that's going to help me just with my trial strategy. And absolutely, that's a massive help, and that's probably most frequently where I'm doing my focus groups is closer to trial. But one of the greatest benefits that focus groups can provide for you is a guide to your discovery plan. Which of these rabbit trails do I want to go down? Whatever kind of case, you have some preconceived things that are striking you. And obviously you can always go down those too. But don't you also really want to find out what Paul Scopter and Philip Miller, who wrote a great focus group book, they refer to as jury proof. We've got our legal proof at trial, things that we have to prove by the preponderance of the evidence. But the jurors oftentimes have their own things they need to know. They have their own personal, real-world experiences that they want answers to that aren't necessarily part of establishing your case and that you may not address. And if you don't address those through discovery or otherwise, you could be missing a big opportunity, or you could be getting into a big disaster for your case. So I will frequently do focus groups on cases I'm considering taking. I will frequently do focus groups after I've taken the case, but I've got a big deposition coming up, or I've sent an initial round of discovery and I'm thinking, what else am I missing here? What else might we want to get into that people really care about in this particular case once I have a better set or better understanding of the facts of the case? So focus groups are tremendous at helping guide you to figure out, and again, I don't mean this as any insult to anybody, but lawyers are weirdos. We're not like regular people anymore. Our brains were changed when we went to law school to think differently and to look at the world differently than your average person does, than your average juror does. I don't know about most of you, but I'm always real leery if there's a lawyer in the veneer about letting them get on my jury panel, because I don't think I want that thinking on my jury. I want regular people, but then again, what do regular people think? You know, we think that we're regular people. We think we know what the people, the masses want to know, and oftentimes we do. Okay, oftentimes we do. You know, we're smart people, we're intuitive, we can figure that kind of stuff out. But again, you'll be amazed. Every single focus group you do, I guarantee you, you will always hear at least one important, unique thing that you had not thought of or had not thought about it in that way and why it's important to people. So, you know, the more frequently, the earlier and more often you can do focus groups, it's only going to help you figure out what your case is really about and increase your chances of winning ultimately. Blind spots. Again, you are all very, very intelligent people, and you have all done lots of different cases of different types, and you know the basic areas and the things that you need to get into. But every case is different. Every case is unique, has a unique set of facts, and whether it's you, whether it's just, you know, you and your law partner or an associate that are kind of brainstorming on discovery, you're going to have blind spots. You're going to be missing things. There's going to be things that you hadn't thought of that are significant. And focus groups are unbelievable for identifying things that you just hadn't thought of. Okay? One of the most common questions that I'm asking in focus groups at any of them, what else do you want to know? What was important to you? What do you think was missing? Okay? You know, what do you imagine was going on here? What do you think is going to happen in this case? You know, give them a little bit of the case. Where do you think this is going? What's going to occur? And this will start to identify things that people are imagining or people are thinking or people are really wondering about. Okay? You know, and again, just as a little, I'll do offshoots here and there. And again, some of this stuff you're going to say, geez, this was a, you know, breakthrough moment for this guy. Like, oy. But I'm a simple mind. I need this stuff. This helps me a lot. So bear with me. But in premises cases, I find that one, and I'm telling you, it's so important. Everybody wants to know, has this person filed a suit before? How many personal injury lawsuits has this person filed beforehand? And we would say that's completely irrelevant. Who cares? All right? But when you go in there, there's a massive stigma on most people that they trumped up their fall, they trumped up their slip, okay? And when you can tell them that this 57-year-old woman has never in her life until this very day filed a personal injury lawsuit, people say, all right, I'm gonna listen to this one, okay? On the flip side, you got a whole bunch of personal injury lawsuits in the past, you know, maybe either don't take the case or don't let that come out to the jury. But you learn that from focus groups because every single time people are always saying in the groups, I'd like to know how many lawsuits she's filed before this. And so with one question at trial, you can completely change the way and the credibility of your client. One quick question. Have you ever filed a personal injury lawsuit before this one? No. Move on. It means a lot to people. And I point that out just because that was a blind spot of mine. I never really would have thought that that was too important beforehand until you start hearing that question come up a lot in focus groups. Similarly, again, these are like, this one and the next one are probably the biggest things. Avoiding landmines in your case. And this goes back, and everyone's got to have had this experience. You know, you lost a trial, or maybe you won a trial, and you talk to a juror afterwards, and they bring up something that was not in your case, or they bring up something that you did not address in your case that was a huge issue in the deliberations, and it took over, one way or the other. Sometimes you get lucky, and maybe the jury went and they just took the facts in a way that was going to benefit them. But there are so many instances that if you don't, that you know, all of us are subject to these landmines that could destroy an otherwise good case at trial if you don't identify them and then address them, okay? I'm not sure if I have the clip later. And again, this isn't earth-shattering stuff, and some of you might think, well, of course that was important. But I had a slip and fall case a couple of years ago. And one of the huge issues that focus group jurors, and it's amazing how serious they take this. I mean, they really get involved in these focus groups. Huge battle over the fact that, and it was, in my mind, the clearest cut injury you could have. Woman slips and falls. She does a complete split. That was eyewitnessed by somebody. She's immediately on the ground saying she's in terrible pain, and what's happened is her hamstring popped off of her hip bone. And documented in the incident report, terrible pain, can barely stand up, etc. She declined paramedics. She said, I don't want them. She hobbled out, and she was from out of town. She went and got an MRI, or she followed up with the orthopedic like the next day. He said, this looks like an avulsed hamstring, sends her for an MRI, and it's documented clear as day. You can see the separation. So in my mind, it's like that's as good of a causation case as you can get. People were going crazy about the fact that she had declined I think I do have this clip, but she had declined the paramedics. And all this stuff starts coming about suspicion about her. And a reasonable person would have done that. A reasonable person would have taken the paramedics. They would have gotten the medical treatment. How do we know that she didn't hurt her hamstring later or worse? And it was this huge issue. Fortunately, there were some not good focus groupers. There were people that also pointed out reasons for why she wouldn't have done that. And we were then able to use the reasons that were now consistent with the way a lot of people thought to work that into the testimony with our client to explain why she turned down the paramedics. She was flustered. She was from out of town. She wanted to go get treatment with her own doctors. A variety. I can't remember them now. But there were literally people on this otherwise very righteous case that were ready to blow the whole thing up because she had declined the paramedics. And I was like, it's the clearest causation ever. So again, that helped us avoid a massive landmine in the case that I never would have saw coming. And when if I got D'd up on that case, how do we lose causation on a case like this? And that's how it would have been. So another way, and this I don't think is as frequently thought about with focus groups, they can really help with settlement, okay? And they can help in two ways. First, they can help, if you feel comfortable with the decision makers on the other side, or you make it maybe, it's a confidential piece, you can take pieces and clips of your focus groups. I'll do this on some cases, where maybe the other side thinks that they've got a good liability case, and you've got people collectively that are ready to bury the defendant on liability or whatever the big issue in the case is, and you send that clip to the other side and say, you can disagree with me, and maybe you think I just hired these and these are relatives of mine, etc. I hope I have at least enough credibility with you that I can tell you that these are just random people that came in and they heard these facts. These are the facts that I told them, and this is what people are saying. So yes, you've got an argument, but you need to be aware of the fact that there are people out there that are going to see it our way too. But there's sort of a meta point that's made with this that I believe can really help with settlement negotiations, is when you show those clips and you get an insurance adjuster or the decision maker or the lawyer on the other side and they see focus group clips before mediation, people are going to say, what? I mean, this person's already doing focus groups on our case? And it's that preparation signal, I think, that you're sending that we are ready, and I've got special knowledge. Sometimes I know that I've got a bad case. But we have, the secret, we've been working hard, we are ready to go to trial, can really help persuade that insurance adjuster or decision maker on the other side that you should pay up. You should see things a little bit more our way, and this is why our demand is not so unreasonable. The reverse. How many of us, show of hands, when they're trying to get a case settled, have the client that sees the value of the case maybe a little unreasonably? Ever have that one before? And they want an ungodly amount of money for what the value of the case is worth. And you're having a hell of a time communicating, connecting with them, and explaining to them the problems that are in their case. That it's either not a slam dunk, that there's a good chance you could get zeroed out on this case, or even if you win, there's a good chance that people don't They don't think that you're hurt that bad, or they don't think it's worth that much money. Well, in those situations, I'm telling you, it is very effective if you get in that situation, don't take my word for it, okay? We did a focus group. Again, here are the facts that I gave them. Pretty accurate reflection of what your case is about, right? And let me just show you some clips of what people are saying about it. And oftentimes, the reaction isn't right then, but you'll find maybe a day or two later, you know, I sort of understand what you're saying. I think I'm hearing it a little bit better. And it can really help in that regard. And it also, again, it signals to your client that you're working hard for them. You know, I'm not just pulling this out of the air to get a quick settlement and do this. I'm looking out for you. And you need to be aware of the real risks. I understand this is so near and dear and important to you. There is a real risk you could lose. There is a real risk you could get a lot less than what's being offered right now. And if you still decide to disagree with that, God bless you, we'll go try it. I'll do some more focus groups, but it can be really helpful. And then, of course, getting back to the point before, sort of I think what most people think about focus groups is it can really help with, more than anything, your trial strategy. Okay, separate and apart from understanding what the landmines are, in my experience, I think a lot of times jurors and again, any defense plaintiff, I mean, this is all beneficial for anybody. I don't know if most people are plaintiffs here. I'm talking from a plaintiff point of view, so bear with me. But I think this idea applies to everybody. That jurors resent you, or could resent you, when you make the trial take too long. And you're belaboring points, or you're going into parts of your case that they don't care about. Okay, this is not relevant to me as a juror about why I should care about this case and what my job is here. And separate from identifying, you know, the landmines, your blind spots, helping you work up your discovery pattern, etc. One of the things that they're really, really helpful for is, you know, you got this great theory you want to work up about how important this is, and they're going to just be, and they don't care. You listen to them deliberate. Not one person mentions that big little, you know, argument you put in there that you thought was going to sell your case. They don't care about it. It had no persuasive effect whatsoever. You now know, maybe it cuts out a witness. You know, you can talk about economic loss plans, and you find out that they think it's a bunch of crap. Well, you just saved yourself money on, you know, an economist, or, you know, some life care plan or something like that nobody was going to buy in the first place, and you shrunk your trial down. You made you're constantly trying to carve it down to its, you know, finest point at trial, and the focus groups really help you identify what you do not need to put in there. Okay, what's just going to be wasting people's time, and helps you focus on the stuff that the jury is going to care about the most. Okay, so that's just yet another reason why they're so good. All right, so this focus group, I do two of these. One's a little bit more into like what you can do with them once you're actually running them. Today, this project, or excuse me, what we're going to talk about more is kind of the nuts and bolts of focus groups. So I think a lot of people have questions about just how do you set them up, who do you talk to, you know, all that kind of stuff. So we'll get into that stuff now. So a common question I get is, who are you getting, you know, who are you getting, and where are you getting them from? So I don't have this super scientific basis of like getting people, and I'm like, you know, doing the bowl thing, and I screen out all their super demographics and all their background stuff. I go to Craigslist to start, okay? And I would recommend that's the first place that all of you should start, is you put a post out there, and just as an aside too, I will try to get everybody's email, if you want me to have your email after this, and send you a Dropbox link that has a lot of the forms and the language that I use for posting. So I'll show you what my Craigslist post ad is. I'll send you the, you know, questionnaires that I use and that kind of stuff. So I'm happy to give you anything that I have in that regard that can maybe just save you a little bit of time, you know, preparing for your focus group. But the way that I started, and I think is still the best way to start getting people to come to your focus group, is to post on Craigslist. And So Craigslist is sort of annoying as of like 3 years ago. Everything used to be free. But now to charge, they charge you for specific categories. You know, so if you were looking for engineers, you're looking for teachers, which was nice because they kind of had the demographics set up. Now they charge you like $25 to post, which I still think is worth it. So, you know, but you can also post to gigs. Gigs are free, and I think a lot of people on Craigslist look at those. So you go to Craigslist, and you know you find you're hiring. And what I'll do is just put an ad in there, you know, looking for participants, you know, evening project, 2 hours. It's going to pay $50 cash. Food and snacks will be provided, just to talk about civil lawsuits. And interested participants, if you're interested, you have to fill out this information. And then you pick the kind of demographic criteria that's important to you. Like, I want to know their age, maybe I want to know their political affiliation, I want to know education, job, that kind of thing. And you say explicitly in there, we will not respond to you unless you've provided us all this information. And you'll get flooded with people. You'll get flooded with them. And then you can pick and choose, okay? But it's a great way to get started creating your list. Another way, and this has a dual benefit because it's also kind of, again, like a meta marketing aspect of things, is go on your social media accounts, okay? Go on Facebook, you know, Instagram or Twitter or whatever, you know, that you've got a decent number of people. Or you know, if there's someone else in your family or in your law firm that's got a ton of people, tell them to go on there and just post and say, hey guys, you know, we do these focus groups, and anybody that's interested, and you just give them the basics of it. You know, $50 cash, it's fun. You know, share your opinion. People love sharing their opinion. Here, you know, it's going to be in the evenings after work, etc. And you know, just direct message me or email me your information, and we'll get you on the list and get you invited soon. You'll get a ton of people. Now you could say, oh, well, they're friends of you. Well, I have lots of peripheral people, and you might put, you know, disclaimers in there. None of my close friends, and no lawyers, you know, things like that. Or if you know someone that's interested, do that, and you'll get tons of people that don't know, and it's just an easy way to do it. Plus, you're advertising. Hey, remember me? I'm your local personal injury lawyer too, and you know, it's good to keep top of mind that way, and it's sort of a nice way to do that. And then word of mouth is a big one. So. Everybody knows I do focus groups back in Pittsburgh, and so I am frequently getting emails. Oh, hey, my Uncle Bob, you know, heard me tell a story about one of the focus groups. He'd like to participate. Oh, sure, send me his email. I'll get him in the list. And the other one that's great is at the end of your focus groups. Hey, everybody, if you know anybody else that's interested, that would like to do these focus groups, you think they might enjoy it, just tell them to shoot me an email, okay? That kind of thing. Or every 3 months, you know, once you've kind of created your critical your critical list of people that you can go back to in the future and reach out to, send an email blast to everybody and just say, hey, if you know anybody else that's looking, you know, then you're covering everybody. Again, you'll get inundated, and you're just kind of building your list of people to select from. Okay, so that's the way that I do it. Now, I'll tell you, there are services out there. You can go to, like, if you want to pay money, which I don't think you need to. I don't. I've done it. I've done all these things. And I don't think it's worth the money. I've done mailers. Too expensive. You know, the return on investment stinks. I found these companies, this Axiom company, and different people, they give you all this, like, disturbingly detailed demographic information about people, and then you can reach out to them yourself. Wasn't worth the money at all. I hear people that use, like, job placement places, and they're charging like $75 to $100 a head for a lead for your focus groups. Not worth it. Not worth it. You don't need to do that. Do it this way. Larry, go ahead. Yeah.
Another way, if it's helpful to anybody, we call the local career link. And what happens, we used to be called the unemployment office, and they will give me a list of 20, 30 people with name, educational background, age, and that's how we pick them.
Absolutely.
And you pay them $10 an hour, and you pick as many as you want, and you get the diverse educational background and age that you're looking for. So that's just another easy way to do it in a small town like Newcastle, Lawrence County.
Okay. Well, can you tell me more about it? Like, I mean, do you have to pay CareerLink, or how does it work?
Oh, when you're out of a job, and you'd be surprised who's out of a job, a lot of people are required to register at CareerLink. So there's a woman down there that I called, Jesse Moss's wife, Mary Ann. Hey, Mary Ann, I'm going to need to hire, however many people. Can you give me a list of who's on file? Yeah, there they are.
Yeah,
and I pick them out, and it's really easy. Again, we pay them like $10 an hour. They're there for a half a day, and the whole thing may cost you a few $100s.
Absolutely.
So the local career link is very helpful to us.
That's a good idea. I haven't heard that one before, but that's really great. I'm going to look into that myself.
I had Precise offer a service to me in a case. What do you know? I didn't use it, but what do you know about that?
So it's a good point. We use Precise all the time, and I talked with them many times about that, and I've heard really good things about their service. It's different than what I'm here talking about. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that theirs at least is pitched more as a quantitative. I think that they can promise you that we're going to get this before many different eyes. I think it's mostly through the computer.
It was almost like the wisdom of crowds.
Exactly.
We have a whole national population.
Yeah.
Nationwide population.
So I have not yet utilized their service. I think it wasn't. There's another lawyer out by. That was working with them, I thought, on it. In any case, I think those could be super helpful, okay? And it goes back to that point I talked about before about the quantitative versus qualitative. What they're talking about in those is that we can get this, and I don't know what their methods are for finding people, but we can get the basic facts of your case before hundreds, maybe thousands, and you're paying at each level for how many people you want to get in it, and getting feedback from them. I have not used them, and I think very highly of Precise. I have used what I think is a very similar company. It's called Jury Analyst. They're out of Las Vegas, and it's run by Robert Eglett and Brian Panish, these like world beater lawyers out of the West Coast. I've used them a couple times, and it's fascinating. It's expensive. I think to get like 1,500 eyes on the fact pattern of a med mal, I was a really tough med mal that I had a couple years ago. I think it was close to $5,000, but it was really cool. And I got this big PDF that you could print into a booklet that had these graphs, and it showed sort of how people's impressions changed as they got different facts in the case. And then at the end, they had a lot of demographic information, and it gave you, I don't think I didn't do the full bells and whistles, but it did give you sort of a general summary of the types, based on the data, the types of jurors you would be looking for, like kind of general demographics. So again, I think it gets back to whether it's the Precise, their product, or it's one. There's a couple of those other ones. Jury Analyst I thought was really cool. I would use that again in the right case. It gets back to return on investment. And I think that we're talking, like Larry's talking about, you can get these people in for a few $100, and you can get terrific helpful information. It's different information. It's not as quantitative, and quantitative arguably would be somewhat more scientific. As long as you understand sort of what you're here to get out of these focus groups, I think that's super critical. But I would encourage anybody to check out the Precise thing on the right case, or one of these other things. We use Precise a lot. Yeah, that's a great question. Anybody else have any other thoughts, or has anybody else used one of those?
Let me just finish with that. I didn't use them because
Yeah.
I thought, a nationwide group of people, I'm not sure that that's going to be representative of Western Pennsylvania. Very cool.
Yeah, so 2 points on that. I've sort of not as drinking the Kool-Aid as I used to be a reptile disciple, now the edge, and Don Keenan's different recommendations and ideas, because he does a gazillion focus groups. He was really proselytizing for a while that the jurisdictional issues don't matter. And I don't know if they don't matter with the reptile concept of safety and fear and all that kind of stuff, that if you tap into that, no matter where you are, you're going to get a similar response. I personally, I think that I think jurisdiction does matter. And I think that if you're picking from a pool from Los Angeles versus Mercer County, it's a different group of people. They have, generally speaking, if you're to kind of broad stroke it, you're going to find just different belief systems, I think, more frequently there than you would somewhere else. And again, I don't know the specifics of what Precise does. I do know that jury analyst, they promised, but again, I don't know. I mean, I can't really prove that these people were there, but they promised me that all the people that I had were from the county that I was doing, that I was in, which was Allegheny County, but they promised me these people were all from Allegheny County, which is pretty cool, if that in fact is true. There's probably some way to get them to prove it with zip codes or something, but that is a very valid point that I thought about, and I like the fact that at least they're telling me that they can focus it pretty closely within your jurisdiction. And I think the other point about it is, again, for the right case, you got a big case, I think the qualitative would be a great adjunct to the focus groups that we can all do cheaply, inexpensively, that are very beneficial. I think oftentimes what you find in doing focus groups is you'll do one, and maybe the focus group really just helped you figure out how to do a better focus group on the case in the future. So I think that what I would recommend with those qualitative ones, okay, these are, again, you go online, you pay a lot of money, you feed them the facts of your case, they kind of chop it up and they sort of feed it to people, and you're getting feedback throughout. I would want to have a real good sense of what the big issues in my case were and what the real big issues from doing my own focus groups were before I jumped into that, because I think it would give you greater confidence in the issues that are really going to matter at trial and how those are striking people on a big number sense. Okay. Yeah. So anybody else have any other question? How do I get focus groupers? That kind of thing. Another, and some people might say, that's heresy, what I'm about to tell you. But I really believe that when it comes to focus groups, done is better than perfect. And getting people, getting bodies in and doing a focus group, and maybe it wasn't scientifically precise, and maybe the group of people that I had was too homogenous or not representative of the panel. It's better than not doing focus groups. Just get the people, get them in, and then you start to figure out when you bring them in, whoa, that person's a stinker, they're blacklisted, I'm never inviting them back again. This one's really good, they're talkative, they're